And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Wheelie Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Toll, and I'm joined again by Electrek's publisher, Seth Weintraub. How's it going, Seth?
I'm good.
Awesome. And we have a lot of interesting stories today, a bunch of new e bike related stories. We've got a review to cover, a new e bike coming from Polestar, but we also have a few other stories that involve electric motorbike, something coming from Honda potentially, and then even a few other sort of slightly more out there things. We've got an electric jet ski, some fancy new electric street legal golf carts, a pile of stuff today. But where are we going to start off first, Seth?
All right, we're starting off with the e-bike subsidy. Another state adds e-bike subsidies, this time with $1,700 rebate, and that's the price of some e-bikes. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, this is an impressive one. If you live in Oregon, then you're going to want to stay appraised of what's going on here. It's not law yet, but it should enter this session into the a potential Oregon bill that's going to create a fairly generous electric bike subsidy. So the specifics are that any normal electric bike, non-cargo, would be eligible for up to $1,200 of rebate, and then cargo e-bikes with a higher rebate, $1,700. And there's not too many stipulations here. There's a minimum price has to be, I think, $950, so kind of rules out those like super cheap Amazon bikes. But there's no income maximum, so it's not just like a lower income program. It doesn't rule out like bikes for recreation, like electric mountain bikes, that sort of thing. The only tricky part is that in order for an e-bike to be covered, the manufacturer has to actually apply to be a part of the program. So all the big companies, Rad, Electric, Aventon, all those companies are surely going to apply and they'll get approved. But it's not that you can just go online, find any e-bike or any e-bike from a local shop. It's got to be entered into the program, which will surely happen fairly quickly once this hopefully gets passed into law. But like we mentioned, it's got to go through the Oregon State Assembly. It's got to get passed. But with the amount of e-bike advocates in Oregon, especially in Portland, I could see this having a pretty good chance of passing. So it's certainly very exciting. There are not very many states yet with subsidies. I know New York is working on one. There are some cities that have done their own. Denver has a program. Oh, Vermont also, I think, was the first state to do a statewide e-bike rebate, but they're still pretty rare. So it's very exciting to see another state jump on board. What do you think of this program, Seth?
Yeah, it's great. The price is actually a little bit, I don't want to say it's too much, but like there's a lot of cargo e-bikes that are under $1,700. Obviously, the Rad Runner we're looking at there, I don't know if that fits into the category, but those have dropped on like Black Friday sale to like $1,200. So you could actually make $500 from buying one of those. I can't imagine they would pay you more than you would purchase.
Yeah, so they found a way around that. So they take the price of the e-bike and they subtract 200. So if it's under the 1,200 or $1,700, then it would be the price minus 200. So either way, you're going to be paying at least $200 here.
Yeah, I mean, $200 though for, a lot of really high quality bikes, like that would make the Electrek, sorry, bike, $200. That would make the Rad Runner $200. Um, I think Juiced um would that's what's their base model again? It's not called the
Not the Scorpion, the Scrambler or the
no,
Rip Racer.
Rip
Oh, Rip,
Racer.
Rip. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Rip Racer, they've been selling for about 1,000, so that would be $200. A lot of really good products there that you could get for $200. I imagine I'd be a little bit worried that people would take advantage of it. I'm sure there's like a one bike per person limit or one bike per family or whatever.
Yeah, one of the stipulations actually was also that you have to keep the bike for a year. I don't know how they enforce that, but the idea is that you don't just buy it and then you immediately sell it like on eBay to someone outside of Oregon.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure people in Portland would be like, "Oh, it's just right over the border to Washington." Uh, so I don't know. I don't know if they can enforce that, but it should be a good program. I kind of think that I hate to say this, but I kind of feel like a lower um, amount should probably be the end result, just so that this isn't taken advantage of, and then you know anti e-bike advocates are just point their fingers. Look, that everybody took advantage of that, and nobody got e-bikes. They just sold them. So I don't know. It's almost too good to be true, I guess, is my take on that one. But good that they're doing it. I love that Vermont, I think New York. What are the other states?
I think Vermont and New York are the only ones that are statewide at this point, but we've seen a Denver program. I think Atlanta was considering something. But so far, I think those will be the only two statewide ones.
All right. All right. Let's move on. Polestar to launch its own electric bike as more companies explore e-bikes.
Yeah, it's interesting because there have been a lot of car companies and also some motorcycle companies that are really exploring this e-bike avenue. And I think it just comes down to companies realizing the huge sales volume of e-bikes. But the latest here is Polestar, which is Volvo's electric division. And they've actually done a bike project before. What you're seeing here, if you're watching the video, is their collaboration with All Bike, and they did a pedal full suspension mountain bike, and they're going back to I guess it's pronounced All Bike, maybe Ali Bike, and they're going to work with them again to create an electric some type of bike. We don't know if it's going to be a mountain bike or a street bike or something,
I thought they were
but
working with Cake. Isn't that a Cake? No.
so they also work with Cake,
Okay.
but in that case, it's more of like a partnership to like sort of combine Cake's electric motorbikes with Polestar vehicles. Like on that
Oh,
one,
right.
they've got the moped that can charge from the Polestar, so you could like sort of use it like a dinghy. You know, you drive to the edge of the city from the suburbs, and then you continue on your little electric two wheeler. But this would
Uh,
be like an actual Polestar branded product as opposed to just like a Cake on the back.
right.
And it's
Uh,
interesting because, one of the things that the CEO pointed out was that he doesn't want to just white label something. He pointed out that a lot of companies will just sort of like, I think we covered the GMC Hummer e-bike a few weeks back, where basically it's a all-wheel drive electric bike that's made by another company, and they just stuck GMC's name on it through the magic of a licensing deal. So he pointed out that he doesn't want to do that, but at the same time, they've already said they're partnering up with All Bike, and I can't imagine that you know All Bike's just going to be like, all right, you completely design your own bike and we'll produce it. Like there's going to be some hybrid between white labeling and a original design here, though it's still certainly exciting to see automotive companies get that involved in e-bikes to the point where it's more than just tossing a sticker on it.
right. And it was kind of nice that Polestar at the beginning didn't just say, "Hey, this is a Polestar bike," and slap their thing on a Cake bike, or but I don't guess they're not bikes or mopeds.
Yeah,
But I do
absolutely.
I do wonder, like, I feel like not all these companies, yeah, Porsche bought a bunch of bike companies, including Grape. Um, Mercedes has actually in my Facebook, every time I turn on Facebook, I get a Mercedes bike ad. Um, I think they might be white labeling. I don't know if Mercedes is actually building their own.
Yeah,
And then
theirs is pretty white labeled.
and Ford had one for a while. Obviously, Jeep. Um, I think there's a Hummer bike we talked about.
Yep.
There's a lot of you know, I think these executives are like, that auto companies employ a lot of like MBA types who are like, all right, what's the next big industry? The next big industry is e-bikes. E-bikes are exploding. We know tires, we know wheels. We should be in this. And I don't know that they're going to succeed. They also have, dealerships. So they have points of sale, and they could throw an e-bike in every office and make them, every dealership, and make them an added on bonus or an incentive to come in or whatever. So I guess there's a lot of opportunity. We'll see. I guess more
Yeah.
e-bikes, the better, right?
Yeah, I think it certainly adds more to the market, but it has to be a value added kind of situation in the end.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Switching to an electric bike means getting more exercise, period. Here's why.
So this was like half op-ed, half collection of studies about electric bike exercise. And sort of the impetus was that I've noticed in a lot of my electric bike articles, especially when, we talk about new e-bikes coming to market, you'll see comments that are something to the effect of, oh, great, like electric bike, more people that are, going to be wasting energy or not getting exercise or, that sort of thing. And there seems to be this common misconception out there that electric bikes mean people aren't getting a workout or they're not exercising, that sort of thing. And I think that comes from another misconception that if people are switching to an e-bike, that it means they're switching away from a pedal bike. And what we found is that almost never happens. Generally, when you talk about switching to an e-bike, if it's for transportation, it's usually someone who wasn't biking before. So they're, getting out of a car, or they're taking an e-bike instead of a bus so that they can get, on their own schedule and get all the way to their destination. Or if you're talking about recreation, it's someone who, didn't go out and ride trails before, didn't go riding along the beach path, that, they stayed home and watched Netflix kind of thing. So it's most of the time you're talking about people that are getting on an e-bike as opposed to some other form of transportation, or just living a more sedentary lifestyle. And so when you look at moving towards e-bikes and all of the different studies out there that compare e-bike exercise to pedal bike exercise, what you see is that even though, like, mile for mile, you get more exercise on a pedal bike, in the end, e-bikes often provide almost as much exercise. I'm sorry, e-bikes, and that's, not talking about throttle-enabled e-bikes, because if you're just throttling along, you're basically riding like a motorbike. But when we talk about pedal assist, where when you have to pedal some and then the motor kicks in, what all of these studies find is that they result in increased heart rate, increased calorie burn, and improved cardiovascular health. So when we talk about switching to an e-bike, whether it's for transportation or recreation, it is almost always going to result in someone getting more exercise, not less. And I think that that's a big part of this misconception, that people think, oh, electric bike, that means someone's not doing work, when really it's the opposite. They're probably doing much more work and getting much more fitness in the day than they were beforehand. And Seth, I know that you ride pedal bikes, you ride electric bikes, and you cover all sorts of transportation. So I'm curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so my daily driver is a pedal assist level 3 bike, and I go the same distance that I would normally go on a pedal bike. And honestly, I haven't ridden a pedal bike in a while, but I just go faster. So normally when I would go 15, 20 miles per hour, I go 20 to 25 miles per hour with a pedal assist. And in reality is like it really helps with the hills. So I'm more likely to bike ride anyway. So and frankly, like I like pedaling, and people who like pedaling are gonna pedal, and they're gonna, go as fast as they can. And I think the pedal assist is actually just adding like a little rocket booster to your back. It's not really unless you're using a throttle, it's not taking away any exercise. It's just moving you faster to where you're going. And I would add, like, even the throttle stuff, you're balancing yourself, you're using your side muscles, you're driving down the road. It's a little bit harrowing sometimes. So your heart rate gets moved up a little bit. And it's better, like, just even going on a moped without pedals is probably better for you than sitting in a lazy boy with a metal sheet wrapped around it, um, which is a car. I think two wheels is better in just about every way. So uh, yeah, I agree with the study.
Yeah, absolutely. That, now that you mention it, I would be fascinated to, like, do a throttle ride and then check my Fitbit data afterwards and see what my heart rate is, compared to either just, like, sitting at the desk on the computer or doing a pedal assist bike ride. Because it would be interesting to see, I definitely feel like when I'm throttling around, my heart rate's up a little bit from the adventure, but it'd be cool to
Right.
see the data.
Yeah, and you are throwing your body around a little bit with the balance and the core strength, and putting your feet out, and the handlebars and everything. So there's probably something there.
Yeah, we gotta look into that. That's interesting.
All right. Himiway Big Dog electric bike review. A cargo bike, e-bike that's more like a moped.
So this will be a fun one because both Seth and I have ridden this bike, and the big dog, it's they call it a cargo bike, but I would put it more in like a rad runner class utility bike. Surely you can use it for cargo. It's got a nice big rack. It's, powerful with a 750-watt motor, but it's not one of these, huge long tail rad wagon style extended cargo bikes. And so for me, this is kind of the sweet spot, because what you end up with is a fairly small format, 20-inch wheels, that sort of thing, not too long of a bike, that's highly capable. So, it's fast. It can get up to about 25 miles an hour if you unlock it, though it does come as a 20-mile-an-hour class 2 bike. It's powerful. It's 750 watts, but it's certainly putting out more peak watts. It's got a huge battery at 48 volts, 20 amp hours. So you're looking at just shy of a kilowatt hour of capacity, and it's fairly comfortable, I'd say. Front suspension with a pretty decent hydraulic brake, so it's got good braking. To me, the biggest downsides were just that it's a pretty heavy bike. It weighs 79 pounds, and it's not just heavy, but because it is a little bit longer, it's kind of bulky too when you pick it up. I know that to go up like just 3 or 4 stairs with it, it was like a little bit of a procedure because you kind of got to like muscle both ends of it up, even though it doesn't weigh more than like picking up a large child or something. It's still like spread out a lot. And then the other thing is that the pedal assist is kind of I'd call it surgy, almost like when you start to pedal, it really kicks in all at once instead of sort of slowly coming on. And so if you were trying to do like a very easy slow pedal ride, you'd start to pedal and all of a sudden you'd like blast up to like 8 miles an hour from almost nothing. So in that sense, it was a bit tricky to do like a slow, relaxed, easy start on pedal assist, though you could always like sort of throttle lightly to get rolling. But besides those two downsides for me, it was a pretty comfortable and pretty fun bike. What did you think of it, Seth?
Yeah, I had the exact same experience. I had bringing him inside up those same steps was kind of a pain, especially with the two doors, um, and also I noticed the downside was the pedal assist and throttle even sometimes would delay a little bit longer than what I'm used to. Um, and I wonder if that's like the controller. I imagine it's the controller, or if it's that new Bafang hub motor at the back. Um, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something they could upgrade, or if
I
that's what
think
you
it's
got.
sort of like I don't want to call it like lazy programming, but it's just some of the nicer bikes, they sort of program in like a very nice ramping of the power. Whereas if you're just using like a simple controller and it's almost more like a switch, like now power's on, then you don't
Right.
get that, ease into it kind of feeling. So to me, it's a little bit lazy in that they didn't, put more effort into a more comfortable throttle ramping, which certainly takes more time and more trying trial and error basically to play with the settings and create something more comfortable.
Yeah, but it almost feels like there's a bigger delay in that one. But I would also say like these are great bikes. They look awesome, and they like you can put another human being on the back easily, and it's even rated for 400 pounds, I think. So it's not like you have to go over any spec. You probably put two or three kids on there, um, get the whole family. Um, and I like the big display. There's lots to love about this thing. The lights were good. Um, the motor, I would say, like once you're powered on, it's plenty powerful. I think what's the peak on this, like 1100 or something?
Something
Was
like that. I'm not sure if they even publish the peak watt or not, but it's
yeah,
usually for these motors like 11, 1200.
yeah. So that was good. I like, frankly, I'm a little spoiled with the juiced hypers and the some of the other ones. Um, so it was a little bit, I don't want to say disappointing, but it was a little bit regular. It felt, especially with the big weight of the bike and the controller that was not smooth. But I think if you're looking for a mopedy bike, I think this is a pretty good pick, especially if you want to ride somebody else or put a lot of weight in the back. I think this is a really good choice.
One thing I wish they had included as, an accessory that you could add on would be a passenger package with like foot pegs that fold out and a nice cushioned seat. Because
Yeah.
right now, I think you'd have to sort of rest your feet on the, frame members back there.
Yeah. Do they even have a package you can buy? Like like $100, little handlebar cushion peg
I don't
combo?
think they do. Not that I've seen on their site. And I think that's, really what they're missing would be like an official, because you could like throw a pillow back there or something, but especially the foot pegs is where it's at in terms of making someone feel really comfortable and giving them a safe place to put their feet.
Yeah. So my kids were riding their friends around on it, and super easy to do. I rode my son around on it a little bit. Um, no stress at all about that in the back at all. So like, my big takeaway is like great bike, uh, but there's a lot of things to think about before you jump in there. And I hate to say it, but I also like the step through design. I can get my leg over a seat still, but sometimes it's kind of nice not to have to you know hitch up the pants a little bit to get the legs going.
I love
Um,
step throughs. I've like
yeah,
fully committed to that. Like it's just to me that's like the right way to design now. As long as they reinforce it and make it strong enough, it's just so much nicer to get on and off. And especially if you have kids or a cargo back there that is even higher and even
right,
harder to throw your leg over. Like
right,
I'm in love with step throughs now.
yeah. And did you were you able to like kind of test the range? Because I never even got the like probably rode like 10 or 15 miles and it never even went down like one battery thing.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
yeah, so I don't even like this thing seems like it could go quite a bit with a
Yeah.
kilowatt.
My wife and I were riding, we probably did like 20 miles and maybe we got like one more notch down on the battery, but for
Okay.
over 2 days we didn't even have to charge it. Like it just wasn't even a thought like, oh, better charge it to make sure we have enough range. That's how big the battery is.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. And we actually brought these down from Vermont to New York, and we took because they are heavy bikes, and we do have that Hollywood rack that I think a bunch of e-bike sellers sell. And we did a post on it earlier. But I didn't want the batteries to be hanging out the back, so we took the batteries off before we put them in the back of the car, and I think that helped a little bit. But it was really easy to get the battery in and out. Usually, like I hate to keep bringing up juice, but those batteries are a little bit, chunk. Where these were just like in and out pretty easily.
Yeah, I think these have good space between the front tire and the battery too. Some e-bikes where they have the like underslung battery there, if there's not a lot of space, it can be tricky because you got to like turn the wheel and wiggle the battery out. But these, there's plenty of room to let it drop out, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's a good looking bike, good cable management, I would say. I think the fake mid drive.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking there. That's kind of silly. But overall, I think that wood is a nice touch. Overall, I think they did a good job here. I just we have some suggestions for version 2. I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. But I'd say, 1 3/4 thumbs up at this point.
Yep, yep, same. All right, moving on. Honda files trademark for electric Motocompacto, likely a tiny e-motorcycle. Love that idea.
So, if you're not familiar with the original Moto Compo that Honda made, it was a tiny little motorcycle. That's what's in the top picture there, actually. And it was built so that it could fit in the back of a Honda, I think it was the Honda City. It was one of these little, like, hatchback cars from the 80s that they made. And so that was like really dingy for your car, and that like your car carried its own little motorcycle in the back. And it was a really cool concept, but it's a gas motorcycle, so like it's leaking oil and it's hot, and it's not the ideal vehicle to put inside of another vehicle. But Honda might be rectifying that now because they've trademarked now in 2 different countries Motocompacto as an electric scooter class trademark. And so it looks like they might be preparing to reproduce this tiny little car trunk sized motorcycle in an electric format, which would be a really cool way to incorporate an electric scooter into a car. Of course, you could always get like a standing razor type scooter, electric scooter, and put it in your trunk. But the idea that the same manufacturer would be producing both of them and they'd be designed to sort of nest one inside the other is a pretty neat concept. And it would probably mean that you'd be able to charge one from the other, even if, like if they put it in a gas powered Honda, they probably put like a, charging port in there so that you could charge it from the alternator while it's running. But if, when they eventually get around to electric cars, they could have it charged right off an EV battery. That would be a pretty cool concept too. But of course, this is just a trademark filing, and so it doesn't mean they're going to be producing this. But the fact that they've now filed it, I believe, both in Canada and the US with the United States Patent and Trademark Office and the Canadian Intellectual Property Office is a pretty good sign that they're at least really considering this, which to me is promising.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're even thinking about it, and you mentioned earlier the boat and dinghy uh, situation. Maybe this is something that it'll be part of future cars. Like you just have a built-in secondary form of transportation, uh, in the bottom part of your trunk or something. I feel like that would be kind of a cool, like why have a spare tire when you can just, have a like a another form of transportation at your fingertips. And theoretically, you could probably almost put two people on something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think when you consider that a lot of cities are also starting to close off big portions of the city to car traffic, like we see many, like Paris is considering closing off a huge portion of the center of the city to cars, and many other cities have either done this or are contemplating their own street closures. Then this idea gets even more validity because you drive as close as you can to the city, and then maybe there's these big parking lots just outside of the city or like just outside of a ring road, and then you get to take your scooter the rest of the way in. And to me, that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and like for very popular cars, let's say like the Tesla Model 3, there's a in the Model Y as well. There's like an area below the trunk. I wonder if, something like this or I'm trying to think of really compact bikes. I wonder if anything would actually fit down there, or if it would make sense for a third party to build around that you know those dimensions, just so you could have a bike at in the back of your car at all times. I mean, there's another thing for a Tesla that it's called like a test mat, where it turns your Tesla into like a sleeping quarters, where it's a mattress and it's got like shades for all the windows and pillows, and it fits below there, so you can always have that. I wonder if that would make sense for a product. Maybe we should go hunting for a small bike and see if we can make something like that. Might be worth our worth a little bit of time.
Imagine if Tesla did it though. Like if they made their own, wow, that would be like game over.
Yeah, and there was an interview this week where Tesla's head of design, Franz von Holzhausen, um, said that he's a big biker, and I was like, well, if you're a big biker and you're the head designer at Tesla, what's taking so long? Like, come on, get it together. So we'll see. All right. Moving on. I've ridden every electric motorcycle out there. Here's what I discovered.
So I'm pretty proud of this, but like just to head off the most pedantic of our viewers, there are a few electric motorcycles I haven't gotten to. There are a couple like outside of the US that aren't here yet, like the Stark Farge, the TS Bravo, and then there are a couple US models that are like super boutique or are in questionable production. Like Tarform has made a few, and Lightning is like no one's really sure how many they've made. I've never seen one in the wild, but for the most part any electric motorcycle you can buy in the US at this point I've ridden, and then a few that you can't yet, like the Del Mar. And I won't go through all of these because it's a decently long list at this point. But if you are interested in any of these models, I recommend checking out this post. But I think the takeaway message here, though, is just that at this point, we've reached so many different models that fit so many different types of use cases that it's almost like at this point, it's worth reconsidering a motorcycle license for so many people that are looking for something that's like a commuter level bike or even something slightly more powerful, but haven't really considered themselves like a quote unquote motorcycle person before. Because, I feel like there used to be this, different type of view of motorcycles and motorcyclists of this, biker culture and that sort of thing. But with the advent of so many new electric models that their purpose isn't so much like, riding to a biker bar. It's more about the utility, about the practicality and the efficiency, that it's just opening up this whole world of motorcycling to so many more people that didn't see themselves as a motorcycle rider before. And that includes everything from like far out there cake models that combine like really interesting designs with utility. I think I included a picture that Seth got of me actually wrecking one of those cake
Where's my
bikes.
image credit, dude? I don't see it
It,
anywhere on there.
I think it's in the fine print. I'll have to make sure. I'll make it a little
Okay.
bigger next time. But so there's just so many things out there, and then you get to the higher end. You got like these zeros, Harley Davidson live wires. I guess it's just live wire now. Energicas that are full racing sport bikes, and just everything in between. Electric scooters, Vespa style scooters, and there's so many options out there, even in the U.S. market, which is like the smallest motorcycle market and the last to electrify. That at this point, it's like you've got your pick of the litter. So to me, this is just a really exciting time for anyone who's ever considered, a little bit more power than electric bicycle and is like motorcycle curious.
So I am motorcycle curious, I would say. But the problem is I don't want to have to take my test on something with a clutch and a kickstart. And so am I still not like when I can take my test on a zero uh, FX, then I'm ready. So what are my chances here?
So that's, I think, one of the biggest holdups at this point. You've hit the nail on the head there. I'm not personally familiar with anywhere where you can take the test on electric. I'm sure there are some places if you don't need to do a whole class. If there are states where you can just roll up and do the test, but most states have some sort of class that's a requirement as part of the licensing procedure. It's usually like 2 evenings in a classroom and then a weekend in a parking lot situation. And I don't know of any of them that offer electric as an option, unfortunately. So that would be a really awesome thing. And if anyone knows, certainly let me know, drop in the comments or something, because I would love to find out about that.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like the ease of riding an electric motorcycle kind of warrants a separate license, maybe. Like, uh, an electric bike license wouldn't require somebody to know, how to use a clutch, how to kickstart, how to do all the silly things that internal combustion requires.
Yeah, there's
I
something. Sorry, go
Yeah,
on.
go. No, I was just gonna say it's like a different class almost.
Yeah, there's something kind of like that here in Israel. So I've gone through the class and motorcycle licensing in two countries now, in the U.S. and in Israel. In the U.S., I just had to do the normal MSF class. I did it on it was at a Harley dealership, so I did it on a Harley 500, the Street 500, which is like the babyest Harley of them all. But in Israel, they've got different licenses, and one of them is a combined scooter or sort of automatic motorcycle license, and it's a shorter course. I think you can do it in actually one course or like one session that's like an hour or something, and then an abbreviated test. So in that case, if you're not interested in learning to shift and how to use the clutch and everything, you can actually do it on a scooter, but it's still not electric. So it's part of the way there, and it's like a lower level license if you're just not interested in the stuff that goes along with riding a bigger, more powerful gas motorcycle. But it's not to the point where they have electric scooters or motorcycles there. But I can see it coming, especially here where there's a lot of options for electric motorcycles and scooters already. But even in like a fairly progressive electric vehicle environment, I still haven't seen an EV motorcycle test option.
Well, so how about that scooter license? Is there a separate scooter license that could kind of be used to get a electric motorcycle license?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, that's what I'm trying to convince my wife to do. She did like one class on a scooter and
Hmm.
she's like trying to find time to go back. But basically, it means that she doesn't have to learn to shift or anything. She did the class. She wanted to. Now she's completed. She can go and do the test on a scooter, and she can get a motorcycle license that in Israel allows you to ride up to, I think it's 125cc equivalent, which includes a number of electric motorcycles. So by doing the scooter, it's a gas scooter, unfortunately, but she could do the test on a gas scooter and then ride some like middleweight electric motorcycles legally. So that's sort
Hmm.
of a way to do it, but you still have to start on a gas something.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get there because there's more really compelling vehicles coming, and it's a shame to see that like like Onyx, for instance, they have to throw pedals on their thing to make them legal anywhere. It's just kind of silly to see that happening, and probably isn't the safest and best way to go about getting more powerful uh, mopeds into people's hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Moving away from the two wheels, we have Club Car's fancy new electric golf cart. Looks like a living room on wheels.
So this is kind of a funny one. I hope that you're actually watching the video here because it's worth seeing, but we'll do our best to describe it. So this is the Club Car Crew. You might know Club Car from golf carts, but they also started producing street legal golf carts, which are actually known as low speed vehicles or LSVs. And that's what this is it's not really a golf cart anymore, even though it kind of looks and feels like one. But in addition to two front seats that swivel around to face backwards when you're not driving. It's got sort of an L-shaped bench couch thing in the back and a table like you'd find in an RV or something like that. And it creates this almost like living room or like outdoor patio set environment where you can have like 5 or 6 people sitting there around a table, all having a meal, playing cards, that sort of thing. But it's within the cabin of a fully street legal four-wheeled electric vehicle. Now it is an LSV, meaning it only goes 25 miles an hour, so it's not something you take on a highway. But for LSV appropriate communities, somewhere where the streets only go up to 35 miles an hour, certainly lots of island communities, um, old, not old, elderly communities. Um, there's a few cities, I think Peachtree, Georgia, is like a, super golf cart friendly city where there are more golf carts than cars, that kind of place where these would actually be
The
pretty useful.
villages in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. The villages. So it's I mean it's kind of, like egregiously expensive. I think it's was it $30,000, something like that. See if I can find 27,000 is what it starts at.
Actually, like when you think about the price of a gem, like that's not crazy.
Yeah, but the
You know,
price of a gem is kind of crazy.
well, yeah, that's true. Well, we'll
Yeah.
we'll wait for the Alibaba of the week version of this, and we'll see what kind of price we can find on it.
Yeah, though it is cool that it's like at least available, right? Like, I mean, it's fun to look at like the silly Alibaba cars, but like, A, they're not, you can't really like buy them and get them here easily, and B, they're not legal. So if you really did want a just small street legal low speed electric car that has all the comfort of your living room, like you can actually go out and get it, which is kind of neat. It'll cost you an arm and a leg, but it does exist, which is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and when you think about like you're kind of it's like a moving, I don't want to say an RV because it's not an RV, but it's like a moving uh dining room area or, patio area, I guess outdoor. I can see this actually taking off. I think a lot of people would like this, especially in the like you said, the beach communities, island communities. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and what the
So
designers described it as, they said the sort of idea behind it was that they saw lots of people in golf carts would sort of like pull up two golf carts next to each other facing opposite directions so they could like hang out and have a conversation. And the idea was that like, why don't you just make it so the vehicle itself is more like park and hang out friendly? And that was sort of the idea here. The inspiration was that it wasn't just a vehicle to get somewhere. It's like once you get somewhere, you can hang out with people in the comfort of like a nice padded, bench seat, lazy boy style chair, that sort of thing.
yeah, and like if you had two of these, you could have a full like, circular like like area, I guess.
It'd be like a
So
1970s conversation pit in your living room.
exactly. That's exactly where my mind was going. So that's cool. If they want to send me one, or you one in Florida,
We
that
gotta
would be
get two
fun.
of them so we can make the conversation pit.
Exactly. It would only take us like 3 days to drive to, like the 2 hours of normal driving
Three
to
days to
get.
meet in the middle.
Right. Exactly. All right. Moving on here. Um, we've got two more posts. So if you have anything you want to put in the comments for us to address, go ahead. I see a lot of LinkedIn conversation, but not so many questions. So hit those now if you're going to do that. California based startup unveils 58-mile-per-hour electric jet ski on hydrofoils.
This is an exciting one because there just aren't that many electric jet skis out there. I know Fred did a test ride on a Taiga electric jet ski, but other than that, there aren't very many options. And so, not only is the Velo Hyperfoil an electric jet ski, but it also has hydrofoils, which are basically like airplane wings underwater. So once you get going fast enough, usually it's around like 10 miles an hour or so, the entire craft just lifts out of the water and you're just sort of floating above the water on these like, aquatic wings basically. So it extends the efficiency something like 5 to 10 times compared to a gas jet ski. And
Wow.
that means you can have fewer batteries, which are both heavy and expensive, and stay out much longer. Since, if you're trying to push all that water out of the way with the normal V hole, you're going to be much less efficient. So this is a really cool design, but we should point out that this is still a prototype design. These aren't even actual pictures, the renderings, though they tell us that in the next 2 to 3 months, they expect to have a functioning prototype that they want to start testing on. So that should be exciting. But for now, we're still looking at renderings of this design, though they seem pretty gung ho about their ability to produce this thing. So it would be fascinating to see. And when you're talking about 58 miles an hour, I mean, this is a fast, high performance type of personal electric watercraft. This isn't just a float around the lake kind of thing. So we're talking about some serious performance. Now it's going to be also seriously expensive. I think the price they floated was almost $60,000. Yeah. So don't expect that this is going to be something that you can just like buy on a whim, which I think most of these fancy electric versions, even like the first Tesla Roadster, right? Like these things start out as expensive toys for the rich and then they work their way down to normal folks. So
Hmm.
it's something this new and exotic. I don't know if $60,000 is fair, but it's certainly you expect it to be expensive. But I am very impressed by the idea here, and if they can actually get something working in the water in the next 3 months, like they say, then that'll also be an impressive timeline. So definitely looking forward to that.
I could actually see this like like Wall Street bankers who live in New Jersey. They want to take this across the Hudson every once in a while. I feel like that would be a easy $60,000 to justify because you would turn your commute from an hour to like a matter of minutes.
Wow,
Um,
I hadn't even thought of commuting on this. You're like on a whole nother level.
well, I'm on the Hudson River, so like the whole half of my radius of whatever is across the river. So I'm always thinking with the water.
So
But
hint, hint
you
to the company.
yes. So you got water in a lot of places, San Francisco, Miami. Miami might have like a lot of wealthy folks who want to go 60 miles per hour across the bays to get to their next house or whatever. So yeah, I can see a use for this. I think there's probably a pretty big market if this. I mean, if they're still in the renderings stage, I feel like we're not going to get one like this year or next year. Um, so
We'll see. They claim
yeah,
it. They
yeah.
said February, so we'll see.
So they don't have like even a prototype, like a physical prototype, and they won't.
They don't have one to show. They might have. They said they want to start testing
Hmm.
around February. So if they're potentially going to invite journalists to test in February, it could be they've already got something that they're still working out the kinks on now. But all we're seeing so far are renderings.
And where are they based?
San
Cal-
Francisco, I think.
All right, yeah, California-based startup Boundary Layer Technologies. All right, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Sounds like fun, even if it's a little pricey. Although 58 miles per hour, I feel like you hit something then, and it's no longer like silly splash into the water. It's more like you know Coast Guard rescue kind of situation,
Yeah, water is pretty hard at that speed.
right? All right, I bought this 5-seater electric boat on Alibaba for $1,000 basically. Am I crazy? Of course not.
I'm super excited for this, folks. So this is my second big Alibaba purchase. The first was an electric mini truck, which you guys might have seen before. It's kind of gone around the internet a couple times. And based on the fact that that actually went pretty well, I decided to try my luck with this 5-seater electric boat. It's a 14-footer. It's got a 500-watt motor, though that's a continuous wattage. So we're probably talking like, 1,000 watts peak, which not super powerful, but they claim is enough for 5 knots. We'll determine that. And it's basically like a little, probably like lake style boat. I don't think you'd want to take this out into like, a bay or a gulf with any serious current.
You're not
But
crossing the Pacific in this thing?
oh gosh, that I don't even know if you're crossing like a large river.
Right.
Yeah, but this thing, like, as a sort of slow and steady pleasure boat, seems like it's going to be pretty nice. It's a five-seater. It's got, like a normal throttle. It's got a steering wheel. It's not like, a little tiller on the back of a rowboat kind of thing. It's like an actual boat. It's got a canopy. I want to add solar to it. So I asked the factory about how much weight it can support on the canopy. They weren't sure. They said probably not more than 50 kilos or about 110 pounds, but it was kind of funny that they don't know. But that's sort of the joy of buying from Alibaba, is that it's a bit of an unknown adventure that you set out on and things like that, where you just like, oh, okay, just don't put anything too heavy on it. It'll probably be fine.
Yeah, I guess it's a question of, like, are those real metal, supports, or is it just plastic painted with shiny
Or
paint?
aluminum foil.
Yeah, or aluminum foil. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it looks like it could support at least a couple of solar panels. And how many, watts are you gonna put up there?
So I'm gonna try and get, if it'll fit. There's a 550-watt Renogy panel that looks pretty
Ooh,
good.
that's big.
Yeah, so I think, if I can put like a 550-watt panel and get like, 350 watts or so, maybe 400 in really strong sun, then that would be, a serious amount of input. If it's pulling 500 watts, then, you're getting almost as much input as you are drain.
I actually know a company that kind of pulls, extra panels from, solar installs. Like, if, you get a pallet and there's a couple left, they pull those, and they're based in Miami, so I should definitely get that information to you because, that might be a good way to get a big rooftop solar panel, pretty inexpensively and easily.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I mean, there's so many cool like customizations like that I'm already planning. So for example, the like when I put a solar panel on top, I want to make a rack for it that lifts it up a few inches above the canopy, and then I can slide life jackets under, like sort of between the canopy and the solar panel for storage. Because the other thing is there's zero storage on the boat, which is a little bit frustrating. There's not even like a small hatch for putting like keys or
What
anything.
what's, like, below the steering wheel and on the other side there?
It's just like cavity. Like I think they run the wires in there, that sort of thing. There are little like sort of like scupper holes there, but
Well,
it's
I
for
I think you need to
maintenance.
get out the jigsaw.
Yeah, I was actually thinking because you can buy little like hatches,
Yeah,
so I might be able to open that up and put in a little like hatch door to get some storage in there. But I'll have to play. Like, there's so many unknowns here, which is like kind of scary, but also part of the fun. It's like you
right.
get it, and then you learn, what did I just buy?
I know, and, there's so many, like, variations, like, in the lead image, you can see, like, the chairs are 2 different types of yellow, and, I guess yellow is kind of the front chair, thing, and then the back is kind of painted whatever color is the rest of the thing. So let's talk about the batteries a little bit. You're going with, uh, a LiFePO 4 12-volt, 200 amp hour? Uh,
Yes, so I'm gonna run two of these to get 24 volts.
okay. And let's see, how many kilowatt hours is that? Let's do some math here.
So it's going to be just over 5 because they're actually 12.8 volts.
Okay.
So that turns into, um, so it's 2,500, a little over 2,500 per battery.
Right.
And then it's 5.12 kilowatt hours, I believe.
Okay.
And they told
That
me that,
that's actually
12,
quite a bit.
yeah, right. Like it's more than it needs. They told me that 24 volt, 100 amp hour would be appropriate for this boat. But I was like, well, if I'm already putting batteries in, like, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm like, it's going to be a little like
Well, you got the solar.
borderline.
You got the solar. What
What
do
if
you worry
it's
about?
cloudy? Like, if I'm out on a boat, I want to know I can get home. It's not like a
Right.
car where it's like, all right, you park it, you call a taxi. Like,
You get a paddle. You put a paddle
so
in
I'm
there.
going to have a paddle on there, but I never want to have to use it.
Right.
We call it an
Uh,
emergency paddle for a reason.
right. And how much do these batteries weigh? Like, is that gonna eliminate the, ability to carry 5 people or
So they're pretty heavy. I think each battery is about 45 pounds. So we're talking almost 100. but I think that the 200 amp hours of lithium iron phosphate will be about the weight of 100 amp hours of lead acid, and it's designed for lead acid. So
Okay.
I think it'll actually be about the amount of battery weight that it's spec'd for.
Okay. Well, that's
But
great.
you do bring up an interesting point, though, and I imagine there's going to be a pretty significant performance difference between when you have one person in the boat, when you have five people.
Right. Yeah, 5 people in that thing. Yeah. Okay. Just I don't know if I would be number 5 in that one.
Yeah, I think I'm
Um,
gonna consider it like a four-seater, because also if you see that middle seat in the back, that's like the hump seat in like an old Buick kind of thing.
right. Yeah, it looks a little uh car seaty. But overall, looks like a super fun project. A little bit jealous. Like, love to be part of something like this. That looks like
Next
so
time
much
you're in
fun.
Florida, let's go out for
Yeah.
a boating excursion.
Yeah. All you have to do is come up the coast a little bit. Again, it'll take 3 days, but if the
Yeah, a
sun's out,
couple.
maybe 2 days.
Oh man, yeah. I really want to put it in a river and then take it out into maybe the bay, but I'm not going out into the Gulf of Mexico. So I chose yellow just in case something bad happens, so I
Right.
am
I was
easily
gonna say,
spotted,
yes.
but I don't
Smart
want to
move.
have to use that. Yeah,
Yeah. You maybe paint the top fluorescent or something.
big
Well,
X
yeah, exactly. Like, just
right
always,
here.
always in need of help, just in case. Well, I can't wait to see the update on this. It looks like so much fun. Um, so I guess we'll hear about those soon. Moving on. So we got a lot of LinkedIn conversation in our feed this time, which is cool, but not really a lot of questions. More like people saying hi to everybody else. So it's
Fun too.
gonna, yeah, it's fun. I'm gonna try to find some comments that are good. Let's see. Guys, I'm in California. California has rebates starting this year. I think that's referring to the e-bikes. So we'll have to look into that. And I can't believe the Infrastructure Act, the U.S. Infrastructure Act, didn't throw throw a billion at it, throw $1 billion at e-bikes. What's the big deal?
Just a billion.
Uh, yeah, I mean that would probably just blow up the e-bike industry. Like, it would turn it into something totally different. All right, Carl in San Diego says 750 for a regular e-bike and up to 1500 for a cargo or adaptive e-bike. People whose income is under 225 FPL or who live in disadvantaged communities qualify for additional incentives. So I think that's the California one.
Interesting. We'll have to
We'll
look
have
into
to,
that.
for sure. All right, somebody wants an e-bike. Who doesn't? Everybody wants an e-bike. Nice color. Carl's back saying at least a few of these car companies actually recognize that EVs are unsustainable and they know that they need to get their bike business going. Okay. So that's a good angle that we didn't really talk about. Looking at Ford's weird front derailleur patent. Okay.
What? I'll have to look into that one too.
That's interesting. All right. Eric Black. Hi, Mike and Seth. Canadian news. Stromer sent OTA updates to reduce Stromer Class 3 e-bikes top assist speed from 45 kilometers per hour to 32 kilometers per hour. They sent out the over-the-air update this past Wednesday, the 28th. That's something interesting we'll have to look into, because that would be a super dick move to just, hey, here's an update. Oh, now your bike's way slower.
So
Uh,
speaking of that, you know who else did something similar?
no.
But it was by accident. A couple days ago, Super 73 accidentally pushed an update that removed throttle operation for everyone outside of the US around the
Oh,
world. Yeah, like
geez.
the click of a button, you had like tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Super 73s that the throttles just stopped working.
Are they gonna fix it, or
Yeah,
what?
they might have already fixed. I mean, it was like 2 days ago. They were like immediately they put out an update on Instagram and their socials saying like we're working on it. Very sorry, that wasn't what was supposed to happen.
Geez. But I mean,
Yeah.
I know a lot of places, Europe in particular, you're not supposed to have throttles. Uh, so was that kind of the idea?
So I think that they were probably responding to like one country somewhere that
Uh,
was getting stricter or something. And that's exactly true. That in most of these countries you're not supposed to have throttles. A lot of them do, or they get a throttle saying it's for off-road use only, and they install it themselves. But they the company accidentally killed it like for everyone globally outside of the U.S.
yeah, that's you don't want to do that. All right, Carl in San Diego's back. Or we're still talking about the car companies doing bikes, or they couldn't get to where they wanted to go on a pedal bike, but the e-bike extends the range to allow them to get to their transportation destinations. I think that's the kind of growing or going concern there. Let me see. The Big Dog, aka the Roman Reigns bike. What does that mean? Do you know what that means? Roman
Not
Reigns?
quite following. I don't know.
Okay. All right. We have a doctor, at least one plays one on LinkedIn, saying bikes are very useful in the health sector and important to cardio exercise.
Absolutely.
So we'll believe that guy's a doctor. Um, can you use a Tesla coil on here for protection in bad neighborhoods? Hmm. So I was thinking like, those cars that like roll coal. Like if you could have like a big Tesla coil on the back of your Tesla to just like zap the guy who's rolling coal next to you and just take out their whole like, you know, the whole electrical system in their vehicle.
It's like a
Um,
personal EMP.
yeah, kind of. And if they're gonna roll coal on you, you're gonna zap them, turn turn their
It's an arms
electronics into
race. Oh my
exactly.
gosh.
All right, Carl, San Diego, universal foot peg add-ons sound like a good side gig opportunity for someone. Yeah, man. Like,
I could see
there's
it.
a lot of opportunities. We're seeing them all the time, and we're actually pretty tempted to get into some of them. Secret for now. All right, Nico D. The bowhead trike is interesting. So this is a tadpole tilting system. I don't know what that is. I
Yeah,
know
not
they have those
familiar.
tilting bikes that. Yeah, I don't know.
Have to look that one up.
All right, is that fake mid drive a placeholder for an actual mid drive motor? Maybe that was the rationale there. They were going to make a mid drive, and probably not. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I know they put the controller there, so it's not unused. I just think that, if they had to have a little box to access the controller, they might as well make it look kind of neat like a mid-drive.
Yeah. All right. Carl's not in favor of our little dinghy bike idea. Finding ways to pair e-bikes with cars is regressive. Carl, you're not entirely wrong. I kind of agree with that. That's just adding a little bit of complexity, but as an option, it may be for edge cases. I think it's still
Yeah.
cool to think about.
It depends on your perspective, yeah.
And the first zeros were closer to an e-bike than a 1,000 cc motorcycle. I feel like that might have been their sweet spot because to get high power, still short range motorcycle, the price is too high. Uh,
Yeah, I would say, I mean, at this point, they're so far into the high power stuff that I don't think they'll ever go back to that.
and Carl's kind of word here is I was sad to see Bramo and their 6-speed transmission go away. There could be a place for an underpowered, under torqued motor that gave higher range via gearing. Bramo tried too hard for performance. All right, we're
Yeah.
back with LSV, known in California as neighborhood electric vehicles. I think a lot of the U.S. is known as neighborhood electric vehicles.
NEVs, so the federal law lists a classification for LSVs, so that's sort of the official designation, and NEVs is like a colloquial type of vehicle, but in the federal law, it doesn't actually list NEVs because you could also have gas-powered vehicles that qualify under that law. It's just at this point they're like 99% electric, so they're technically two different things, but they're usually interchangeable now.
Yeah. All right. We're talking about the little golf cart RV thing. Villages in Florida. Yes. Is it flammable? All the good questions. Perfect for a parade float vehicle. I guess that also applies to your boat for a boat parade.
Yeah,
Um,
or a guy.
soon people will be living in those.
I think it was the club car.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing if that's the case. I hope people aren't going to be living in this. And it's like van life, but like
Very
not as
slow
good.
van life.
Kind of
Yeah.
like yeah. All right, Nico D, above 400 watts, you should need a license for two-wheel bike, just like for traditional fuel engines. Seems a little arbitrary. 400 watts is actually a lot of power, so maybe under that. I don't know, two kilowatts. What kind of sound system does that thing have? I think it's you bring a boombox, right? I guess it depends on what we're talking about at this point. Um, all right. So does it do hills well? I'm imagining we're talking about the condo on wheels. Is that
I think so, yeah. I can't imagine it's got the best hill climbing.
no? If you need hill climbs, it's probably not the vehicle for you. All right. So another Nico D says above 11 kilowatts, you should need a heavy motorcycle license. It's
He's writing
interesting.
the whole rule book here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, so hydrofoils, I'm always intrigued about how much more energy efficient they are. And we've also seen electric pedal assist hydrofoils. So, in terms of the amount of power you need to get those things going, you can create that power with your legs if you're super coordinated and probably pretty have a pretty high like strength to weight ratio. So, um moving on, the jet ski hydrofoils for James Bond only. I think that's maybe true for the first round, and then that would be a good bond vehicle. Uh, good advertising. Um, let's see what else we got here. Um, any other good ones? Back to Stromer sends out OTA update to reduce. Okay, we saw that one. There may be a fix by killing the eSIM on any bikes that were off and remain off. Um, yeah, that's a shame that you have to do that. And I think we're pretty much done with we have Steven Frolkjar. Twinkie from Germany is a good bike car mix. We'll have to look into that. And that's pretty much it.
All right, so a round of applause to Seth for sifting through that massive amount of comments. I think that might be more than we've gotten before on any
Yeah,
other video.
new record.
Props for that. And thank you everyone else for tuning in. Be sure to check back 2 weeks from today. We'll be back with the latest episode of the Wheelie Podcast. We'll see you